What is up, NASCAR fans? You're watching the Nitro Series Daytona 500 Modified Qualifying. That is right. It is time for the big heavies to get out there on the track. The stocks put on such a great show. They set the bar high for the mods, but I do not doubt this is going to be one heck of a contest. And the emergency rules are the same, no field fillers. We're going to start the qualifying off with Misty G from Puffs Racing. Misty G driving one of the few Toyota Camrys in this series for the mods. The gates are down and Misty G is picking up speed the further she gets down the split track. She heads into the turn and looks pretty smooth there, crosses the line easily. Up next is the team owner Puff driving the number 6 Brad Keselowski Ford Mustang. And the gates are down. These cars are very similar castings, built very similarly. And we should see a similar lap from Puff as we saw from Misty there, and easily finishes the job. And up next is Riot Isaac in the number 45 Adam Petty Camaro. Part of the same Petty themed series as all of Puff Racing stocks. This is the same chassis and wheels as the other two Puffs cars we've seen so far, so I would expect them to put up very similar results throughout the year. And finally, we have Baby Richie in the Austin Cindric Mustang, the number 2 car. And he has a little bit of trouble getting out of the gate there. And he looks a bit off pace compared to his Puffs Racing teammates. And unfortunately, it looks like he will have to race his way in. That is a DNF. And now up next for the Barora Bangers, coming in from Australia, is Gaza. Sporting sponsorship from the Texas Motor Speedway. That's going to be our next race on the schedule this year. And he gets a little squirrely going into the turn, but manages to salvage it. And he crosses the line pretty easily. And up next is his teammate, Gale Force. Yes, that is Gale Force. Nessa Force drives a much older Charger in the stock series. And Gale Force is looking pretty fast, gaining a lot of speed heading out of the split track. Sails through the turn smoothly, and that's an excellent lap. And up next we have our first G-Body. Coming out of the bayous of New Orleans, we have Po' Boy of Po' Boy Racing. Po' Boy, one of the OGs in the ADRC, certainly no stranger to these long-term NASCAR seasons. And his first qualifying lap as an owner-driver looked really good. And now it's time for his subordinate, Lucky Jackson, in the number 8 Circuit City, not Budweiser, Chevy Monte Carlo. I believe that's based on a Hutch Strickland car, not a Dale Jr. car. Just as fast as the Boss Man. And now we go back to our second of 3 Australian teams. This is another familiar face from the Sub-4 RA days, Harry Hoon, driving the green and yellow John Deere car, one of my favorite paint schemes as a kid. And here we have his teammate, Burt Buzzard, in the number 56 T-Bird Stalker. You know, if you bring one of these T-Bird Stalkers to the track, you mean business. This casting leads the Nitro Series in all-time wins with 3, but it's going to be an El Reco for Burt Buzzard. He'll have to race his way in. And speaking of T-Bird Stalkers, we have another one with Derek Pitts, driving for Murphy Racing Enterprises, the third of our 3 Australian teams, and that's another El Reco. And it looks like Mr. Pitts will have to race his way in alongside Burt Buzzard and Baby Richie. And up next is Derek's teammate, Gavin McSplage, in the number 999 Dodge Charger. And any of my Australian viewers can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's their equivalent to 911. And he certainly spent more time in the ambulance in Lord Shank's series than on the track, and it's no different here. That's an El Reco he'll have to race his way into. And up next, we have Mark Russell Racing. His first driver is going to be Elton Sawyer in the number 38 Ford Thunderbird from Racing Champions. And Elton Sawyer looks pretty good heading in and out of the turns. That's a smooth lap for him. And this is his teammate Sparky Racer in the Chevy Malibu Stalker. And this is, of course, a Matchbox. The other car, being a Racing Champions, has Matchbox wheels. One of, I think, 2 mods with Matchbox wheels. I looked, it's actually 3, but Elton Sawyer is the only one with Matchbox wheels swapped on it. And up next is Lord Raymond driving for HSL Motorsport. Watch out if him and the Black 13 of Derek Pitts end up in the same segment. They are arch rivals as seen in the Lord Shank Racing Series. And up next is Chef Squid, an OG character from the pre-COVID days of Sub-4 RA. This time he is driving a Plymouth Superbird. There's got to be at least one winged car in the series, and he's going to have to race his way in the duels. That's a DNF. And up next is the Slate Belt Owlman, or just Owlman for short. The third of 4 HSL cars. This is the same casting that Puffs Racing is using. And let's see, the Owlman gets a little squirrely coming out of the turns, but he recovers and finishes the lap with ease. And finally, we have Casey Kane in the number 9. We got tons of Bill Elliott cars here, so I figure we do one for his successor too. We like the Evernham font here at HSL Diecast, and that's a solid run for Kane. And now we have Dog Squab Racing kicking it off with Mike Honcho in the 97 Monte Carlo. Here's one really to watch. It's heavy, it's got FTEs. So far, so good coming out of the turns, and it almost spins out. Does it cross the line? It does. And Mike Honcho gets some style points. Wish I wasn't holding my phone in an awkward position there. I could capture the whole thing, but you saw him spinning and finish the lap in reverse. Didn't look like he lost much speed. And now it's his teammate and team owner, J-Bo. In the Grand Prix Stalker, as we saw with Todd Bodine last year, the car is fast but unstable. But he flies across the line, and now it's time for Uncle Elvis Racing. First, we have Bobby Allison in the number 22, and that is not the result you want to see there. That's an El Reco, a DNF. He will have to race his way in the final duel. Let's hope the first of his teammates, William, can have some better luck than that. He is driving in a Dodge Charger number 9. It's a Bill Elliott or Casey Kane car, but it is painted like a Viper. It's got scales and everything. Really neat looking paint job there, and William gets across the line here. Now it is their other teammate, Heather, in the number 10 Pontiac Grand Prix for Matchbox. This car did not get a wheel swap. The wheels are fast as it is on their own, and Heather gets a little squirrely, crosses the line in reverse. That time I caught it, just like Mike Honcho. Heather gets some style points, and now it is finally time for Clyde. The fourth of Uncle Elvis's 4 cars. This is the heaviest car in the Modified series. This weighs 99.2 grams. Car with the same body and wheels won the stocks race. He should be one to watch this season. And up next is Sloppy Bear, the boss man, driving a 1955 Ford Crown Vic. Number 3, Matchbox Casting. And Sloppy Bear looks smooth coming in and out of the turns without incident. And here is his teammate Gray in the number 0, Red Monte Carlo. That's right, Gray is driving a red car. And he's looking good heading into the fat tracks. Goes in and out of the turn smoothly and crosses the line without any incident. And up next for Demon Preacher Racing is not Kendrick Lamar, it's Charlie Verney in that black G-body. Although if you're watching this Kendrick Lamar, I'm pretty sure that'll be your favorite driver. And up next is Charlie's teammate, Bill Z. Bubb, in the number 47 Ford Taurus by Team Caliber. And Bill's looking good coming out of the split track. Navigates the turn pretty smoothly and completes the lap. And up next, it is Christie in the number 28 Wolf's Head Oil Dodge Charger for G-Force Racing. You got to see this car in person, the metal flaking, the paint. One good-looking car runs a good-looking lap. And finally, our last car of the day for G-Force Racing, we have Giorgio in the number 27 IROC Grand Prix. And there we go, the camera catches up with him. Gets a little squirrely in the turns, but recovers. And now it is time to reveal the playing card picks for everybody. It looks like a lot of low draws to kick it off. Lots of 4s, 5s, and 6s. And there's a jack in there for Harry Hoon, I believe that is. Everybody else has single-digit cards. And it looks to me like Sloppy Bear draws the pole. Charlie Verney, Mike Honcho, and Gray, as well as Giorgio, should probably hold off on buying lottery tickets for a while. And the good thing about using a large blackjack shoe to do this is that we have some ties. The first is the Owlman versus J-Bo. And they both drew a 4 of diamonds, so this is more for bragging rights than anything else. They're going to be starting in the back anyways. And so far, it's just a beat down by J-Bo. He got a 2-car length lead right out the gate. He's got to make a mistake for the Owlman to have a chance. And in the duels, if you win on the outside in the first try, that is it. The round is over, and J-Bo gets the better starting spot there. But if you're the Owlman, at least you got a better starting spot than these guys. They both drew a 3 of diamonds. That is Mike Honcho on the inside, Gray on the outside. For lap 1 of this duel. And this one's a lot closer. Both Monte Carlo stockers, technically different castings, as Mike Honcho is using a casting from the late 2010s, and Gray is using one from the 90s. And Mike Honcho wins it on the inside, which means this duel becomes a best out of 3. Now Gray is going to start on the inside. And if he wins, Mike Honcho goes back to the inside, and it's time for race number 3. But Mike Honcho looks like he's coming out to about a car length lead before heading into the fat tracks. Gray starts to catch up, and they are neck and neck heading into the turn. Gray wants this badly, and he's going to shut Mike Honcho out by a bumper length. And now it is time for lap number 3. This is just for bragging rights, too. They both drew a 3, I believe a 3 of diamonds, so this is more for bragging rights. They're testing each other's cars out, trying to see who will have the advantage in the Daytona 500. Both, of course, are locked into the race. And Gray passes Mike Honcho on the outside. The much lighter casting gets the pass on the outside. And last but not least, we don't know who the least of the cars are going to be until the end of the season. These guys just happen to draw 2s for this race. It's Charlie Verney and Giorgio. Once again, this is more for bragging rights than anything else, or placement if they both wreck on the same lap. That's the only relevance that this has. And Giorgio takes a car length lead in turn 1, wins that race from the inside. Now it's going to be a best 2 out of 3. And the gates are down. Looks like Giorgio is going to take a big lead before he even gets into the fat track portion. That's already a 2-car length lead over Charlie Verney. And Giorgio continues to build his lead heading into the turn. Take a pretty dumb mistake for Charlie Verney to come back from this. And Giorgio almost makes that mistake, takes out the track officials van, and flies off the track on his roof, but not until after he crossed the finish line. That is a win for Giorgio. And now it is time for the Last Chance Qualifier. And this is the Last Chance Qualifier. A 2-lap race for all the drivers at DNF during qualifying. And it looks like Bobby Allison got stuck. He didn't have that problem in his qualifying lap. That last place starting spot is a major disadvantage. He did leave the starting gate eventually. Maybe stalled his car at the shift, and looks like Derek Pitts is going to lead that lap. Chef Squid bins it. He's going to miss the Daytona 500. And look at Bobby Allison. Jumps off the hood of Burt Buzzard. It's almost like he thinks he's on Junkyard Joust or something. He jumps off the hood. We are going to slow this down in slow motion. He actually does a wheelie and jumps off of Burt Buzzard's hood. Somersaults in the air multiple times. This is insane. And afterwards, he has some nice acrobatics to save himself from landing on his roof. He's going to need a miracle to get into the race, but he definitely earned himself some style points with that. And the gates are down now. We have Gavin McSplash and Derek Pitts on the front row. And it looks like Derek Pitts might be having some car trouble. He holds up the whole inside lane. That allows his teammate to run away with it alongside Burt Buzzard in the number 56. And it looks like Burt Buzzard trying to make a move for the lead. Splash gets a little bit squirrely there, but he manages to save it, puts a block on Burt Buzzard for the win. And that settles your starting lineup. Burt Buzzard will be starting last. Sloppy Bear draws the pole. There's everybody else in between. And there's a good starting spot for Heather. And Clyde there, not so much for their teammate William. Same goes for Sloppy Bear Racing. They draw the pole and a crappy spot too. And we have a couple of segments with teammates in them. We have both of the Po' Boy cars in segment number 3. And would you look at that, both of the Dog Squad cars in segment 4. Get ready for some shake and bake. And missing the race is Derek Pitts, Chef Squid, Baby Richie, and Bobby Allison, but the season is far from over for any of them. We still have 11 more events. We have field fillers in all the upcoming events. If the points leader has a bad race, you are right back in it. Remember to hit that like button, leave a comment if you haven't done so already, subscribe. Once again, this is your Daytona 500 starting lineup, and we'll see you guys out there on the track.